Hi, I'm Tom Mustin. I'm here with two legendary investors, one from Wall Street, the other from Silicon Valley, both sharing the same warning for June 2nd, which they believe could be the catalyst to at least double your money on 5 different investments and reshape America on a scale unseen since 1999. According to Jeff Brown and Whitney Tilson, in a year that's seen the worst sell-off since 2020, a new AI super chip 50 times faster than NVIDIA's could soon transform the AI sector, create millionaires with the courage to buy now, and bring the 4 horsemen to the market in a generational new order that will impact your wealth for decades. And it's all centered on a tiny California company you must add to your buy list by June 2nd, along with a set of little-known stocks known as the Fabulous 5 that could replace the Magnificent 7. Lead you to dot-com-like gains and cause the old world stocks of the past decade to crash even further this year. It's a massive and dark new prediction based on a secret of Silicon Valley, a secret that's helped our special guests get into 18 tech deals that have each returned at least 1,000% and has drawn 8 professionals from the world's largest asset management firm to follow his work. A secret he believes is now pointing to a nasty move in the stock market, worse than anything we've seen yet, even after $9 trillion was wiped out with the recent sell-offs. And now, before we get started, keep in mind, what you're about to see contains disturbing content. Jeff has agreed to personally demonstrate today's topic in a 60-second video some viewers will have difficulty watching. But if you missed the bull market of the past 2 years with the rise of AI, and you've been sidelined by this year's historic sell-off, then please, pay close attention to what we're about to reveal, along with a free recommendation for where to move your money immediately. Because the fact is, when the man beside me, Jeff Brown, issues a major new prediction, it pays to listen. He once made 44 times his money on a single tech play. He recommended Bitcoin during the 2015 bear market before it rose 33,000%. Recommended NVIDIA before it rose 18,300%. Has advised the U.S. government, including the Defense Intelligence Agency, been awarded certifications by MIT and Stanford, where he studied among NASA engineers. And to our point today, he spent 30 years in technology, including during the dot-com collapse and even the 2008 crisis, working as a senior executive at 3 tech companies: Qualcomm, Juniper Networks, and NXP Semiconductors, where he made 9 times his money on the company's stock. That's why we're taking his big new prediction today very seriously. Jeff believes a terrifying new chip could soon sideline NVIDIA and spawn a new class of AI companies that could soar this year, bull or bear market, and offer you a chance to buy in at historically good prices. In today's tricky market, where more than 200 stocks doubled in under a year recently, followed by a brutal sell-off, you can't afford to ignore what's coming next, he says. Jeff, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Tom. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, we're also joined by Whitney Tilson. He's a former $200 million hedge fund firm manager who nearly tripled his investors' money, is friends with more than a dozen multi-billion-dollar hedge fund managers, and has accurately predicted so many market moves that CNBC has called him the prophet. He predicted the dot-com crash, called the bottom of the 2008 crash on 60 Minutes, and called the bottom of the COVID crash to the day. And to our point today, the last time we saw a generational shift from technology back in the late 1990s, Whitney found 12 stocks that rose as high as 29,000%. Whitney, great to see you again.
My pleasure, Tom. I'm here because what's coming on June 2nd is the opportunity I think we've all been waiting for. In a year that shocked almost everybody, a seismic shift is now coming to AI, as big as the rise of Amazon.com. And it's going to reshuffle the market on orders of magnitude I've seen just once before in my 30-year career. And I say that as someone who bought Amazon at a split-adjusted $2.41 a share. For those who see it coming, it's going to offer the best investment opportunity for 2025 and likely for the remainder of this decade, no matter where stocks go next. And for everyone else, well, it's going to get even uglier.
All right, gentlemen, so what exactly are you predicting?
Well, the 4 horsemen are coming. Now, if you'll indulge me for a moment, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are a group of biblical figures that appear in the book of Revelation, and they represent 4 things: conquest, war, famine, and death. And today, I'll explain how these 4 factors will soon rack the stock market causing unimaginable losses and, of course, emotional distress to the vast majority of the American population, while others could build generational wealth through the secret that I'm sharing today. A secret I've learned as a vice president of a chip company whose stock has returned up to 23,000%, and which is now pointing to a small new California firm whose breakthrough AI chip could change the course of humanity. I'm not exaggerating. Now, and I don't say this lightly because, Tom, we're talking about the next generation of technology and the consequences it will have across society. And I've seen it happen before. It's how I personally built my own fortune.
How so, Jeff?
Well, let me start off with a question. What were you doing back on November 30th of 2022?
Honestly, I don't remember, but I do know it was a terrible year for stocks, right?
It was. But I predict school kids will be forced to memorize that date someday. Because, Tom, whether you realize it or not, that day marked a point of no return for humanity, which went on to mint 500,000 new millionaires over the past few years. But here's the thing. The last time we saw anything close to November 30th, 2022 was back on August 6th of 1991. That was 3 decades earlier. Does anyone know what happened that day?
Sure, that's the day the internet first went live.
That's right. And it marked the start of the dot-com era, which I was lucky enough to recognize at the beginning of my career in high tech. So, for example, when I invested in JumpCloud, which offered a new way for businesses to dramatically improve their identity management, I'm up as much as 11,300% already. Now, with that kind of potential, there was endless excitement about the internet in the beginning, but underneath it all, there was a growing darkness that most people couldn't see.
You talking about the threat of a crash?
Well, something worse than a crash. Now, Whitney, you remember the excitement of that era, don't you?
How could I forget? I personally began with just $1 million under management, working on an IKEA desk and a laptop in my bedroom, and built it into a number of hedge funds and mutual funds with more than $200 million in assets. I remember buying AOL in my wife's 401k for a 6-fold return. But Jeff is right. All of that success had a very dark flip side.
And that first generation of online technology, it lasted 30 years. And of course, it changed our lives, right?
Sure.
I mean, how we eat, how we listen to music, and even watch movies. The internet disrupted everything. And along the way, it even changed our very concept of money, which is how I knew to recommend Bitcoin back on June 24th of 2015. Now, if you remember, at that time, people thought it was a scam, but you could have made 300 times your money on my recommendation. And I even bought a Bitcoin for myself as far back as July of 2014 for just $569. But then came November 30th, 2022, and that is when everything changed yet again.
So what happened on that day?
Well, a new piece of software came out, and within hours, it became the fastest growing consumer software application in history, gaining more than 100 million users in just 2 months.
Wow.
Tom, just to give you a sense of scale, that's 14 times faster than the growth of the iPhone after its debut from Apple, another innovator I found early on. In fact, when I bought Apple at a split-adjusted 35 cents, a critic emailed me, "You lost all credibility when you stated that you bought Apple." But of course, Apple is up almost 600-fold since then. But this is so much bigger. And what's coming next this year will draw just as many skeptics.
So you're referring to the release of ChatGPT, I take it?
On the surface, yes, but really, that day marked the birth of modern artificial intelligence, AI, and the launch of a new generation of online technology whose consequences we haven't even begun to experience yet. We're in a 1999 moment for artificial intelligence. Tom, despite today's rocky market, take a look. AI is already monetizing. That is, it's turning clicks into profits faster than Facebook, faster than TikTok. And now, thanks to a tiny California firm only the wealthiest investors know about, the next generation of AI, I predict what could be coming next on June 2nd will disrupt society all over again, but on a scale even bigger than the internet, with 5 to 10 times higher potential, and upend the market in the process even more than anything that we've seen yet. Now, mark my words, what we're about to show you today and the secret behind it all is your chance to essentially travel back in time and buy the likes of Apple, Amazon, and Netflix for pocket change, just as Whitney did, but on a range of new AI companies that you haven't heard of yet.
Okay, so Jeff, you've said today's uncertain market offers the perfect opportunity to get into these companies, like the next gen of advanced micro devices, which you recommended back in 2017 before it rose up to 1,800%. Arista Networks up 769%, Lam Research up 517%, ASML up 582%, and more, correct?
Yes, these are all semiconductor and IT companies that I recommended to play the first generation of online technology long before NVIDIA was hot and before ChatGPT. So please, I want you to do something for me. Please forget about ChatGPT and even forget about NVIDIA. Now, don't get me wrong, NVIDIA's rise has been impressive, and you'd have made 183 times your money if you bought and held on to my original recommendation in 2016, when I recognized the company as more than just a gaming company, but the emerging workhorse for machine learning, artificial intelligence, and even autonomous driving. But I'm telling you here and now, this is your wake-up call. Beginning June 2nd, NVIDIA and ChatGPT could no longer be the main drivers. Yes, they will continue to grow, but a new class of companies will arise that can do things far beyond anything that we've seen yet and could make you very wealthy, a lot faster than you realize, off just a small investment, especially if you buy at today's historically cheap prices. With one new chip driving the whole thing, which exceeds NVIDIA in every performance category, made by a small company that's already drawn a major investment from the founders of ChatGPT and even the CIA.
I recommended NVIDIA myself during the COVID crash. But what's coming next will disrupt the market like you wouldn't believe, all from a single new chip.
So what kind of chip are we talking about?
Well, do you have a smartphone?
Of course.
Well, then, you've likely been using a computer chip designed by a company that I helped direct during my 30 years in technology, Qualcomm. Now, Qualcomm's chip is about the size of just a fingernail, but over the past 15 years, it's been powerful enough to change the way that we communicate by allowing for ever-increasing amounts of data to be transmitted wirelessly to support things like phone calls, of course, texts, video, photos, and so on. A $5,000 stake in that company has grown into $1.1 million overall.
Wow.
And this is one reason I recommended Twilio back in 2016, by the way, a cloud-based communication platform where we booked a 238% gain. Now, I could have spent my entire career at Qualcomm, but I knew chips would continue to grow even more powerful and offer even better investment opportunities. So I left.
So wait a minute. You're saying you left what must have been easily a six-figure executive job at one of the top semiconductor firms in the world?
Yes, I also had a job in Japan running one of NXP Semiconductor's largest and most strategic divisions, which I also left for a better opportunity.
Wow.
And that's because there's a secret about chips that most people don't know. And I knew it could lead me to not only all the tech deals that you showed earlier, including Ripple Labs, whose unique computing protocol allows for a new form of online payments, which made me 60 times my money, but to the kind of investment that comes along once in a generation, bull or bear market, like Facebook and Google, which both went public during very uncertain times in the market. And that's the focus of today's special event. In short, there is a new chip 144 times more powerful than Qualcomm's, 78 times more powerful than Intel's, and even 50 times more powerful than NVIDIA's. In fact, look at this. It outperforms NVIDIA on every metric, including an 880 times greater memory capacity. And we're talking about a historic change in AI capacity, all driven by a single California-based chip maker whose name I can almost guarantee you've never seen before. It's like buying NVIDIA back when I first found it at a split-adjusted 63 cents a share. And it's going to bring dot-com-like changes to society and the markets beginning June 2nd. Or, as I put it earlier, the four horsemen are coming for millions of individual Americans and hundreds of businesses. And the first horseman is death.
Now, Tom, you might find this idea of the four horsemen a bit crude, but it's how every major new technology ripples through the market. For example, I used to rent movies from Blockbuster Video. Then came the internet, and I heard about this guy named Reed Hastings. He started out renting DVDs through the mail, then got into the video streaming business. At first, I made the same mistake most people do when they hear about disruptive new technology. I laughed. I even wrote an 18-page report on why his company, Netflix, was doomed to fail in streaming.
Whoops.
Well, to my surprise, Reed invited me to California for brunch. After my visit, I realized that streaming was the future, and both Blockbuster Video and Netflix's DVD by mail businesses were doomed. After the stock crashed the next year, I went on to CNBC literally the day it bottomed in October 2012 and publicly predicted it would become that decade's Amazon. And I took a big position at my fund. Sure enough, the stock is up 9,000% since then. And of course, the old way of renting movies died. 84,000 Blockbuster employees lost their jobs. That's what we mean by the horsemen of death.
And now that same horseman is coming again with next-gen AI, I take it.
Yes, and I'll give you an example. Say goodbye to General Motors. If they don't collapse outright, they'll be forced to change beyond recognition. I mean, the old GM that we grew up with is about to die. And by the way, the auto industry represents just one of at least 5 different opportunities that I see today that could double your money if you get positioned by June 2nd in today's chaotic market.
So this new development you're talking about goes beyond cars, I assume.
Right. It's not just the auto industry. It's gold mining, it's medicine, finance, customer service, and much more, as we'll explain. This is where the breakthrough new chip that I've been telling you about comes into play, and that disturbing 60-second video that I'm going to play in just a moment, which has made a lot of people cringe.
All right, Jeff, so walk us through it.
All right, well, it all goes back to something that happened to me in November of 2018. I recommended Tesla stock, and I publicly wrote, when I think about Tesla, I see one of the leading artificial intelligence companies in the world. This is the incredible part that most people don't see or understand. Tesla designed a software/AI platform designed to operate cars and trucks.
And that was a bold prediction, considering AI was still a fringe topic, and most folks thought Tesla was doomed. In fact, GM's former VP said, Tesla is an automobile company that's headed for the graveyard.
I remember that, and that was precisely his mistake. Tesla was never an automaker. It is an AI maker, but nothing prepared me for the backlash that I received. I got hate mail on a scale that I'd never seen after recommending a stock.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Even I was bearish on Tesla in the beginning. But since then, Tesla's market cap now exceeds the top 10 automakers combined.
And sure enough, Tesla is up as much as 2,100% since I recommended it. And honestly, they're just getting started. I predict Tesla and others who adopt their AI technology will essentially kill off Detroit as we know it and move automaking to the cohorts of Silicon Valley and, of course, Austin, Texas. But don't buy Tesla. Buy the chip maker behind it and the next generation of AI tech that'll enable a total rehaul of the U.S. auto industry. Because that same technology will also upend entertainment, education, marketing, you name it. A new order is coming to the markets and society, all driven by AI, beginning June 2nd.
Wow. Well, look, Jeff, on the one hand, there's no denying AI does have enormous potential. For example, I saw how Bill Gates called AI the first technology to have no limits and the most important advancement since the graphic user interface that helped make him a multi-billionaire. And of course, AI's computational power has grown exponentially, doubling every 6 months or so. But let's bring this back to reality. Do you really think the old-time auto giants will become the Blockbuster Videos of the auto space, and every major sector will see that kind of reset? For example, you've said AI will boot many of the best-known companies in America out of the Dow and the S&P 500. If you thought Intel getting kicked out of the Dow last year was a big deal, Intel, the company who helped create Silicon Valley, just wait for what's coming next. I mean, gosh, that is a dark prediction, Jeff. Do you really think AI will reshape the market so dramatically and so fast?
Yes, because next-gen AI will spread through our economy as deeply as dot-coms did in the late 1990s, creating all the same traps and opportunities. And in this case, Tom, I think it's possible the old-time automakers might be smart enough to learn from history. It's simple. Adapt or die. For example, Ford, Mercedes, BMW, and Hyundai have all begun to adopt AI, and no wonder one company that makes electronic parts for vehicles is using AI instead of human inspectors for finding defects and has boosted accuracy rates by up to 80% as a result.
Okay, so in other words, Jeff, you're saying all the titans of yesterday's industries have no choice but to embrace next-gen AI. And today, the pioneering AI firms you'll describe for us are the equivalent of buying Amazon in 1999 or Google in 2004 following the dot-com crash, NVIDIA following the 2015 bear market, and so forth and so on. Do I have that right, Jeff?
Yes, and we're going to show you exactly how it'll unfold across society beginning June 2nd with long-ranging effects that go far beyond the auto industry, which leads us to the second of the four horsemen, conquest.
This is my favorite part of any new tech invasion. Tom, people have asked me how I knew to recommend Microsoft back on September 25th, 2001, when the market was just as uncertain as it is today, before it rose 2,200%. And the answer is that every new technology is a story of conquest, the story of a young company trying to disrupt and overthrow a paradigm that's existed for decades.
And we predict one of the biggest sectors to be conquered by next-gen AI will be medicine, which could mean the end of the likes of Pfizer and the chance to buy into the next Pfizer, an AI-driven drug maker, for essentially pennies.
Wow. Pfizer has been a $145 billion pharma giant that's been around since before the Lincoln administration, right? So it seems hard to believe a company that big wouldn't evolve with the times.
Well, there's no question Pfizer and other biotech giants have been integral to America over the past century. And of course, shareholders have been richly rewarded, like Amgen's very well-known 36,000% gain after its discovery of the blockbuster drug Epigen, which treats anemia.
Yeah, in fact, here at Stansberry Research, we've shown folks how to double their money 8 times with our biotech recommendations.
But yesterday's winners have fallen way behind, Tom. The next round of winners to change medicine all over again will be AI-driven companies. And it's already happening. For example, if you have a loved one who's ever been diagnosed with a disease like cancer, then you know what a guessing game medical treatment can be and how hard that is for the patients.
Yeah, there's very little in the way of personalized medicine when it comes to treating cancer. It's surgery, chemo, radiation, and drugs. And most doctors have no real clue who's going to benefit and who won't.
And yet, one AI-driven drug maker recently reported an 82-year-old man whose cancer hadn't responded to anything. It looked hopeless until finally he managed to get on a drug that none of his doctors had considered prescribing for him. A drug all the current tech had said would never help him. Guess what happened? His cancer went into remission. Because here's what they did. They took a sample of his tissue and used machine learning models trained to identify changes on a cellular level the human eye can't detect. And here's the key. They did this on dozens of treatments at once in a lab rather than inside the patient. So by doing so, they found the right treatment in a fraction of the time when it would have taken the old-fashioned way, treating his body like a casino and really forcing him to suffer through a litany of side effects.
It's incredible. AI can look at your disease and see which cocktail of drugs have the best chance of working on you in a way human doctors never could. And it can develop new drugs along the way. For example, it takes 3 to 6 years on average to develop a new drug the old way, and 90% of them fail. But one AI drug maker has reduced that preclinical phase to just 18 months. And the NIH has reported an 80 to 90% success rate for AI-built molecules.
That is amazing, Whitney. So why is AI so much faster?
In the old days, drugs were found by chemists who manually experiment with 5,000 compounds in the lab. It's pure gambling. One Caltech scientist compared it to fishing a droplet in an ocean of possibilities. But look at this. A recent MIT study concluded AI can now predict how the best compounds would fare against 100 billion more variants. There is no way that your human brain can put all those bits and pieces in place and figure out the best combination. AI is dreaming up drugs that no one has ever seen.
And that gets to the big secret that we're going to cover today and why June 2nd could double your money on 5 different investments no matter where the market goes next. Now, I'll reveal and demonstrate this secret myself in a 60-second video today. And what you need to understand first is that AI machines are simply faster and more accurate than humans at recognizing patterns. And unlike a chemist, they don't need to go home at 5 o'clock to eat and sleep.
Well, the global drug market is worth $1.5 trillion. So any breakthrough in that field has a real chance of making an early investor a fortune. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And that's how I knew to take a stake in the biotech startup Intabio. I made up to 1,620%. That's greater than Pfizer's entire return since going public in 1985. Now, today I'm seeing emerging AI companies throughout the medical field bent on conquering the existing giants and reshaping medicine. And I think they're going to succeed on a historic scale, bull or bear market. In fact, the California chip maker that I'm recommending today has already struck deals with AstraZeneca, where it increased its efficiency by 546%. GlaxoSmithKline, where it fuels drug discovery, and even the renowned Mayo Clinic. But here's the key takeaway. AI won't just conquer medicine. It'll also conquer banking, customer service, computer programming, engineering, law enforcement, retail, almost any industry that involves repetitive human behavior.
So walk us through how all of this is going to play out here.
Well, if you remember the dot-com era, then you know it's happened before, Tom. For example, consider what's happened to newspapers over the last 2 decades. 2,800 newspapers have died out just since 2005, and more than half the workforce in newsrooms have lost their jobs. But what if I said that's not the full story? What if I told you that eBay killed the newspaper?
eBay, the online auction market? So tell us how.
Well, they conquered the classified section of all things.
Yep. Did you know that old-time paper newspapers derived 40% of their income from classified ads? So when eBay came along with the dot-com boom, allowing you instant access to a worldwide marketplace to sell all the same stuff you might have listed in your local paper, guess what happened?
Those papers lost a ton of revenue.
Sure did, which is why eBay stock is up 7,000% overall. But many people never saw that rise coming because they failed to ask themselves a simple question, the same question you should be asking yourself about the rise of next-gen AI right now. Bull or bear market, what is this new technology going to conquer next? And don't think the recent sell-off will interrupt that process, Tom. Microsoft went public a year before the 1987 crash. The best technologies always go on to thrive no matter what the market is doing.
Well, the 4 horsemen all ride together, Tom. The idea of death and conquest go hand in hand because the markets are a zero-sum game.
This is one reason a Goldman Sachs study said that 2/3 of all U.S. work occupations could be exposed to AI, and that roughly a quarter to as much as half of their workload could be replaced. But smart investors aren't waiting to get positioned, Tom. They're buying the best companies now, before these sweeping changes take full effect, which we think will accelerate on June 2nd, as we'll explain. Like my longtime friend from Harvard, Bill Ackman.
Right. Bill manages $19 billion and famously made what Barron's called the greatest trade of all time during COVID.
I once made 17 times my money in a year by following Bill's analysis on a single stock. Well, guess what? Bill recently took a $754 million position in a company that's using AI to change the way humans receive information. And he quadrupled the size of his stake in a company using AI to expand its reach in the real estate industry.
Well, there is no limit to what AI will conquer next, Tom. For example, consider gold and precious metals, a personal favorite of mine. I once made 679% on the Philadelphia Gold-Silver Index, 1,214% on Mag Silver, and 449% on Frontier Gold. And just like biotech, this sector has shown astronomical gains on the most winning companies. For example, Stansberry Research once saw a 995% gain on Seabridge Gold, right? But just like drug discovery, gold mining is purely a gamble, marked mostly by failure. Less than 0.1% of prospected sites lead to a productive mine, according to the World Gold Council. And only 10% of those have enough gold to justify further development.
You know, I've heard that AI is now replacing miners on the ground. Is that right?
You bet it is.
Wow.
For example, one company has developed what it calls AI-powered mineral discovery software. I know that's a mouthful. They use AI to take strategic samples of Earth and then map and predict the underground location of gold and other resources. The CEO has said it's faster, more accurate, and more cost-effective than traditional methods.
Does that approach actually work, though, Jeff?
Well, one AI gold miner just announced a better-than-average gold discovery earlier this year, and that's on the heels of its discovery of one of the largest palladium deposits in the world. And frankly, Tom, it wouldn't surprise me to see this happen with oil drillers, too. I remember making a 4,344% return trading Anadarko Petroleum back in 2004 and wishing that I could replicate that success. Well, with AI, you can expect to see a lot more oil getting found, a lot more efficiently, bull or bear market.
Or how about computer programming, which has become the backbone of our economy over the last 20 years through every major sell-off? A recent study by Google showed that AI can generate code up to 100 times faster than humans. So as you'd expect, there are now AI companies trying to replace computer science graduates. For example, that's one reason the CEO of IBM recently announced plans to lay off another 9,000 employees. AI has the potential to write more sophisticated programs faster, and AI won't ask you for a raise or 401k plan.
The idea of computer programming taking a quantum leap forward through AI is no small thing. I mean, all of today's most valuable companies were built on software. Every single company in the Magnificent Seven.
Yes, but a new order is coming, Tom. Companies who will take everything the original Mag 7 did to all new levels. 5 companies in particular. And frankly, I'm as excited as I've been in 30 years because all the best deals that I bought into were fueled by innovative software. Like SkySafe, a startup that I got involved with after I saw their software for drone defense technologies. I made as much as 526% return. And I already know of one company creating a so-called AI agent they can license to entrepreneurs who need code. It is a huge win for startups because they get world-class software without having to hire a full team of programmers, which expands their profit margins, a must-have in a difficult economy.
I bought Meta and Google as far back as 2017, before each rose 293% and 252% respectively. But at this point, their upside potential isn't even close to the next-gen leaders Jeff and I are going to discuss today. These are companies fueling the next wave of innovation, the backbone of a new AI economy taking shape as I speak. They amount to 5 little-known stocks to buy before June 2nd. And today's market offers the best entry point you're ever likely to see.
We call them the Fabulous Five, or Fab Five for short. And their success could cause old world stocks to suffer a catastrophic crash, even worse than what we've already seen this year.
To put it simply, beginning June 2nd, an even bigger shakeup is coming to the market, as we'll explain in just a moment. And I say that with the same conviction I brought to my 60 Minutes interview back in 2008 when I called the housing bust.
You know, it's no small thing for Whitney to call a big move. He's also called the 2017 top in Bitcoin back on December 16th of that year, almost to the hour before it fell 85%. And the top of the marijuana stock, Tilray, on Yahoo Finance back on September 21st, 2018, within hours of its peak of nearly $300. It's now under $1.
And that brings us to the third of the 4 horsemen coming to the market, Tom, famine.
Oh boy, this is where it gets really ugly, doesn't it?
Well, we've already touched on it, and there will be a famine in the U.S. workplace. In short, 800 million could lose their jobs around the world, according to a McKinsey study, and 70% of existing occupations could see a pay cut, according to Wired magazine. It's going to launch the kind of transformational change that we only see once every 25 years. Take a look. Here's a list of all the occupations that studies have shown will be affected by the rise of next-gen artificial intelligence. Everything from office management to education to agriculture and a lot more.
All of those occupations? Seriously?
As just one example, say goodbye to tax accountants. AI is shown to be 30% faster at preparing returns and to reduce errors by 40%.
Okay, hold on though. So wouldn't the government step in though to stop AI from killing entire occupations and causing massive layoffs?
Oh yeah, how did that work out in the 20th century, Tom? A recent study by an MIT economist shows that 60% of today's workers are employed in occupations that simply didn't exist in 1940.
If you think we're exaggerating, then once again, just look back at what happened during the dot-com era, Tom. Remember travel agents? That used to be a career. Then came Priceline.com. All of a sudden, anyone could be their own travel agent with a few clicks. One beloved British travel agency that had been in business since 1841 collapsed. 21,000 employees lost their jobs. But Priceline.com, the stock, now known as Booking Holdings, is up 29,000%.
And by the way, Booking Holdings, ironically, has 24,000 employees. So the AI famine won't end the U.S. workforce. It'll just reshuffle it, causing even bigger shakeups in the market.
In other words, it's like all the employees of Blockbuster Video going to work for Netflix, you're saying, basically.
Yes, except that white-collar occupations will be shaken up too. For example, I predict there will be a paradigm shift when one day, very soon, a college kid who says, I want to go to law school, will be laughed at. And that's because all the so-called respectable jobs will soon be either downsized, eliminated, or knocked off the pay scale by such a large margin that it'll lead to a reorganization of entire industries. Do you think I'm kidding? Well, a recent study assigned 20 seasoned lawyers to review just 5 legal contracts. It took them 92 minutes with 85% accuracy. But AI, it took just 26 seconds with 94% accuracy.
That is incredible.
Tom, the typical Fortune 1000 company has 20,000 to 40,000 active legal contracts at any given time. Who do you think they're going to hire to review those contracts? A slow-moving human lawyer who charges by the hour? Or AI that can do the same job with greater accuracy faster? This is one reason a McKinsey study has said that half of today's work activities could be automated by 2045.
I definitely see your point, but honestly, I have a hard time imagining a world where highly educated employees are mass fired for AI. I think that CEOs will be more sympathetic than you realize.
Don't be so sure of that. I mean, one CEO of a finance company recently made national headlines when he publicly said, I am of the opinion that AI can already do all of the jobs that we as humans do. He reported that his company, Klarna, saves about $10 million each year by using AI for its marketing. In fact, their chatbot has already replaced 700 of their customer service agents. And get this, their AI resolves customer issues 9 times faster than the humans did. As a result, they've already laid off 20% of their staff, and they hope to fire another 50% by adopting AI.
48% of U.S. employers plan to replace jobs with AI, according to CNBC. You may not like it, but Tom, it's an economic law as fundamental as gravity. If a company can increase their profits, they will. And frankly, they're obligated to do so. Companies by law must do what's best for their owners and shareholders.
I mean, Meta is laying off 3,700 employees. Google, 7,300 employees. But keep in mind, all of this will be good news if you buy the right stocks. For example, a lot of people were devastated when the dot-com boom caused the collapse of Tower Records, a brick-and-mortar music retailer. But there was a flip side, because with music moving online, retailers needed cybersecurity. They needed a company like Palo Alto Networks, which, not coincidentally, was founded a year before Tower filed for bankruptcy. Now, you could have sat around crying over the loss of record stores, or you could have made up to 9 times your money on my recommendation to buy Palo Alto Networks and holding on.
And it's worth mentioning, Palo Alto Networks has 15,758 employees, more than 3 times the number of Tower employees at its peak.
That is remarkable. So the rise of a disruptive new technology means one door closes while another door, or even multiple doors, opens in the workforce.
Right. For example, when Amazon came along, people freaked out about the end of bookstores. But in fact, more books are published today than ever before. Amazon helps that process with books and hundreds of other products that might otherwise never get released.
And that's another great example of how breakthrough technology creates a new order in the economy. For example, Amazon entered the footwear market. Look how the stock has done compared to Foot Locker. It also entered the pharmaceutical market. And just look at how Amazon stock has done compared to CVS.
I turned bullish on Amazon.com way back in October 9th, 1999, because I knew they could conquer the global retail market. A CNBC journalist and hedge fund manager I knew both warned me to sell. Well, every $5,000 invested that day when I emailed them would be worth $218,000. But it wasn't a smooth ride, as both of my friends predicted. So before we continue, let's make one thing clear up front. Buy the Fab 5 stocks we're going to tell you about today and hold on for dear life. Ignore all the skeptics who might urge you to sell and learn to embrace the bumpy ride that often accompanies potentially extraordinary returns. As you'll see today, this year's sell-off offers an incredible entry point.
Now, keep in mind, Whitney and I don't always get it right. Nothing is ever guaranteed in the investment world, so don't ever invest more than you can afford to lose, bull or bear market.
Right. That's just good money management.
But here's the thing, Tom. There's going to be a lot of competition around who exactly will become the winners in the next-gen AI. And that leads to the fourth and final of the four horsemen coming to the market, war.
So, Jeff, you've been comparing the rise of next-gen AI to the late 1990s dot-com mania. Do you think there's a parallel here, too, with all the competition that's bound to arise in the weeks and months to come?
Absolutely. There are 470 companies making chips today, Tom. The competition to build a breakthrough chip and become the next NVIDIA is absolutely fierce. Now, granted, I'm confident I already know who the winner will be. My team witnessed the chips unveiling at Stanford in a room packed full of the best engineering minds in Silicon Valley. And it's so powerful, you need 50 of NVIDIA's chips to equal just one. Now, I've been researching and tracking this company closely for almost a decade through bull and bear markets.
But this new chip maker is at war with dozens of other companies, I take it.
That's correct. And all those wannabe NVIDIAs, as I call them, present a serious trap for investors today, and in a way that reminds me of the telecom bubble in the late 1990s.
Oh boy, talk about a war. Some folks may not remember, but the dot-com mania launched an epic contest among telecom firms to build their own networks. In the old days, telecom was controlled by just 3 long-distance carriers. Then came the Telecommunications Act of 1996. It gave upstart competitors the right to buy services from the big 3 at fair rates. The poster child for that movement was Global Crossing. They announced they wanted to build 100,000 miles of fiber, took on $1.1 billion in debt, and eventually collapsed in one of the biggest bankruptcies in U.S. history.
And that was the dark side of the dot-com boom, for sure. Right?
Well, it helped bring about the crash in 2000, yes. But remember, there's a winner for every loser, so you have to always be looking ahead. In this case, telecom lost, and companies like NXP Semiconductors won by embracing the next generation wireless networks. Now, I worked for them and made 840% from my own stock offerings. And in fact, I've been investing in every iteration of the wireless networks since 2G. And once headed a global team that managed 30 of the top wireless markets in the world.
Incredible. So you foresaw the rise of chip makers even before the first iPhone came out. For example, and if I have this right, you've traded advanced micro devices back in 2003 and made 3 times your money?
That's right. I knew their chips would be critical to large data centers long before AI entered the conversation. That's why I recommended AMD back in 2018. And sadly, a lot of people may have ignored me because AMD had a lot of skeptics. And 2018 was the worst year for stocks in a decade, but it became the best stock of 2018 and 2019, similar to NVIDIA, which I recommended in early 2016. Following a bear market, NVIDIA went on to become the best stock of that year.
And, you know, that's an important point about always looking ahead, because even during a tricky market like we've definitely seen this year, full of sell-offs, innovation has always moved the best companies ahead throughout every crash and bear market and crisis in history.
Bull or bear market, ultimately it's the war among companies that decides which stocks could soar and which could crash. In my case, back in the late 1990s, I found the biggest winners by simply deciding who would correctly use the new technology and who wouldn't. For example, consider Sears.
Good point. A lot of folks have forgotten that Sears used to be the largest retailer in America.
but they couldn't compete online. An entire wave of upstart retailers seized the internet as a way to create an even playing field with a Goliath like Sears, who was too choked by its own bureaucracy to adapt.
Yeah, Sears was by far the biggest loser in the war to dominate e-commerce. Their collapse was a before and after moment for the economy. People forget how dominant Sears was. They were involved in furniture and electronics, groceries, power tool, auto repair, insurance, credit cards, and more. Their failure to adapt was one reason I recommended Square, the online payment firm, one of the drivers of Sears' downfall. We saw a 221% gain. Sears plummeted 99%.
It's a question of looking at who's going to adapt. That is, who has the resources to embrace the new technology and who doesn't. In my own career, I recommended 12 different stocks that I foresaw as long-term winners who could adapt to the internet. AutoZone, for one, went on to rise 8,311%.
Got it. So just like the horsemen of death and famine we talked about earlier, the horsemen of war can actually be a good thing for the economy because it shakes out the old and makes way for the new. And now, beginning June 2nd, you predict we'll see the same on an historically large scale with the rise of next-gen AI, even if the broad market falls. So do I have that right?
Yes, and it's already happening. Take a look at all these AI stocks that have soared hundreds of percent recently in as little as months. Now, this isn't your father's slow-paced stock market, Tom. Our new stock market moves much, much faster than it used to. And this is because of exponential technological progress. Massive stock moves that used to play out over 10 years now just play out over a single year.
AI is the fastest evolving technology in history.
That's exactly right. And that means that you can grow wealthy in stocks faster than at any other time in history today. This is an opportunity to add a zero to your net worth if you buy the right stocks before June 2nd. Because the fact is, I believe these big gains are just getting started, bull or bear market.
So what about the bubble we've seen in stocks like NVIDIA?
Well, I'm not telling you to buy NVIDIA, but I am telling you to buy the Fab 5. And keep in mind, many of the old ways of valuing the stock market simply don't work anymore. That's because we've simply never seen business models like this before. Until the rise of AI, we've never seen companies with such incredible combinations of scalability, return on invested capital, market reach, network effects, and customer addiction. But you're right, only a fraction of next-gen AI firms will become true winners over the long run and are trading at good prices today.
That's why we want to caution you here and now. Don't rush into next-gen AI companies without first checking them against the secret we're sharing today. And Tom, you know why I'm saying this.
Of course. And in case you don't know, there's probably no other analyst in America who can find and expose the biggest losers in the market as often and accurately as Whitney. Last year, he warned about 6 different stocks that collapsed.
It's one thing to find a winning stock, but during a mania like the dot-com boom, the post-COVID boom, and now with next-gen AI, that's when some of the worst firms will try their hardest to sucker you into buying the stock. For example, back on August 29th, 2024, I warned about a darling of the AI movement. I'm highly wary of Supermicro Computer, which makes servers that contain chips made by NVIDIA and others. The company is engaging in aggressive sales tactics, I wrote. I warned about the company 3 more times, announcing, I think it's likely that the company's been committing accounting fraud.
Well, and sure enough, the stock plummeted 63% after Whitney's warning. Meanwhile, guys like me who attend 40 to 50 tech conferences a year have studied alongside Google, Apple, and NASA employees, and even studied AI as far back as 2011, including 3D printing, robotics, and virtual reality headsets. Well, guys like me have a secret to finding the best AI and high-tech companies in any kind of market. Now, I was doing that long before the AI fakers like Supermicro grabbed attention to find stocks like Aptio, which I recommended for a 136% gain, New Relic for a 156% gain, CRISPR Therapeutics for a 332% gain, Nutanix for a 100% gain in just 12 days, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing for a 110% gain, CyberArk Software for a 130% gain, and a whole lot more. That's why, as we approach June 2nd, it's more important than ever to apply the secret that we're going to share in just a moment and be on guard against the fakers who can't adapt or compete. And we'll address the threat of a larger market crash in just a moment and why the recent sell-off is actually good news.
So, Jeff, walk us through your secret, would you?
Well, of course, and I'll risk my life showing you how it works. Now, here's my big secret, and remember, this is coming from a chip guy.
So, hold on a second. So what do you mean exactly by that?
Well, I mean that I've spent almost my entire 3 decades in high tech working closely with each new generation of computer chip, including as managing director at General Instrument, who were making electronic products back in the 1960s, as a global executive at Qualcomm, whose technology is the foundation of literally every cellular network in the world today, as president of Trident Microsystems in Japan, which made semiconductors for video processing, and as a vice president of NXP Semiconductors, where the initiatives that I launched helped the company go public, rise 14-fold, and even enter the Forbes 1000. Now, that may all sound like I'm bragging, but I just want you to take what I'm about to tell you very seriously, because you might be tempted to roll your eyes.
Well, fair enough. You definitely got my attention. So let's hear it, Jeff, from an active angel investor, someone who's made a whopping 130 private investments in tech in the wake of the dot-com crash, through the great financial crisis, and more, with 5 unicorns and even 1 decacorn, which is a startup that grew to be worth at least $10 billion after you got in. So tell us, what is your big secret?
Well, the human brain is essentially one big computer chip. We can think of it like that. Now, I'll spare you a course in anatomy, but here's what you need to know. Your brain is full of neurons, and these neurons contain and transmit information to each other. The more they connect, the better our brains. For example, in a baby's first 2 years, neurons connect at the rate of 700 new connections per second. And these connections help the baby develop skills like holding a toy, crawling, and walking.
Computer chips, though, are designed to do the same thing, correct?
Well, yes, they contain, of course, transistors, but we can think of them as being roughly similar to neurons. The only problem is, until recently, with the June 2nd breakthrough that we're going to cover today, computer chips couldn't come close to replicating the brain. And that's because the brain has more neurons than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah, the brain has something like 100 trillion neuron connections, according to a Yale study.
Well, from its origin back in 1959, the chip has always sought to replicate the brain. And through Moore's law, chips have doubled in processing power roughly every 2 years since then, through bull and bear markets, I might add. This allowed for the first home computer, of course the iPhone, the social media apps contained on both those devices, and overall, the rise of Silicon Valley, named for the silicon in chips. But for all those breakthroughs, the chip still couldn't match the brain.
So why not, exactly?
Well, because even the most advanced level of chip could only achieve 1% of a brain's capacity for connections. But that's been my secret, looking for what's known as a brain-scale chip development in each new stage and finding the best investment opportunities to play for it. For example, that's how I knew to buy chip-driven breakthroughs like Grok, another up-and-coming semiconductor company. I'm now up more than 10 times my original investment.
And yet, for everything that technology has accomplished up till now, you're saying the chips made by AMD and Qualcomm, and NVIDIA, and other chip makers you've either worked at or recommended couldn't achieve full brain scale, as you call it. They couldn't replace the brain.
Yes, chips have come a long way and helped guys like me make a lot of money, but they weren't brain scale. But now, beginning June 2nd, I believe we're going to see a new company go mainstream, which has built the world's first brain scale computer chip. It's here, it exists right now, and it supports 120 trillion neural connections.
Wow.
Even more than the human brain.
You think NVIDIA is impressive, Tom? Until this breakthrough, AI could only support 1% of brain capacity. Now, this is a new AI superchip. As I call it, it allows for 100 times more connections, and yet the mass public doesn't know about it yet. But beginning June 2nd, that will change, and I believe it will reshuffle the markets and the economy on an order that we haven't seen since the dot-com era. Regardless of where stocks as a whole go next, remember, we've seen this occur with each new generation of technology. For example, here's how Apple has performed through every major crisis of the past 2 decades. Well, the California company behind the new AI superchip could become the Apple of its industry, along with 5 other companies that I think will use this chip to redefine our lives all over again.
Redefine how?
Well, for example, it could power programs for gold mining, drug development, writing computer code, helping police find fugitives on the run, control air traffic, you name it. In fact, it can train other AI models up to 1,000 times faster than existing AI hardware because it allows for 120 trillion different variables. That's 6 times more than what NVIDIA can handle. Now, in a few seconds, you'll see me stake my life on one particular program.
And Jeff, I think we're definitely ready to see it. Can we roll that disturbing 60-second video now?
All right, let's do it. Remember, this is only one of hundreds of new applications of next-gen AI, which I predict will accelerate on June 2nd with the new super chip company going mainstream on the markets. Now, let me start with a simple question, Tom. Do you keep your eyes open when you drive?
I do, yes, Jeff. They taught me back in driver's ed to always have my eyes open when I drive. It helps.
All right, well, recently, I blindfolded myself, got into a self-driving car powered by artificial intelligence, and got into the fast lane, literally. Take a look.
You can see I've got my glasses on right here that are completely blacked out. And I'm going to put them on and put my hands behind my back as we go for the ride. I rarely ever have to touch the steering wheel now. The technology has become so good that I'm very comfortable not having to worry about going from point to point. And as you can see right now, my hands are behind my back and I can't see the road at all. So obviously I'm very confident in how well the full self-driving software is performing. There's not even a stalk coming out for your turn signals left and right. It just automatically gets into the best lane, the most optimal lane for driving. It's signaling again. We're about to get off the freeway here, and right now, just before I put on the glasses, there was actually a garbage truck sitting right in front of us, and it navigated across the double yellow lines around the garbage truck.
Holy cow, Jeff! Those glasses were really blacked out.
I couldn't see a thing.
These cars are already government approved, and they've reduced crash rates by 85% compared to human drivers.
And beginning June 2nd, self-driving cars are only the start of next-gen AI. You see, it takes 120 trillion operations per second to operate a self-driving car like that. And guess what makes that possible?
Chips?
If chips can drive a car, just imagine what they'll do next. This is why recognizing each stage in the development of brain-scale chips is how I've made my living. For example, it's how I got into Loom AI, an early adopter of artificial intelligence used to make characters in virtual worlds more lifelike. It was acquired by Roblox, netting me a 2,298% gain.
And just like the dot-com era, brain-scale chips will reshape the markets and our society, according to the 4 horsemen we spoke of earlier. For example, I once recommended a stock that went on to an 837% gain because of the impact of dot-coms on casinos. Well, just wait to see how AI will impact casinos or airports, schools, office buildings, even fast food, where it's redefining the customer experience at Wendy's, Domino's, and Taco Bell, and has been shown to take 90% of drive-through orders.
Well, the bottom line, the next generation of AI is coming on June 2nd. One company is leading the way and 5 others will follow across a range of sectors that could impact every aspect of your life and bring some exciting and devastating changes to the stock market.
You know, it really is fascinating, Jeff. It's like we're entering a before and after period for America. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and you can either sit back and become a victim of all this, or you can turn this historical moment to your advantage. Because it's in this ongoing gray area between what America looked like before next-gen AI and what America looks like after next-gen AI, where serious new wealth can be made. These changes will roll out across society and reshape America on the same pivotal scale that we saw in the late 90s. The gains on the right stocks could be so high and so fast that I expect it'll launch a mania that will make the recent melt-up in NVIDIA look like a blip and cause the laggards to crash in a sell-off far worse than what we've seen this year.
Now, Jeff and Whitney, I know your free recommendation is still to come, but let me ask you outright. How can I get the names of the best next-gen AI stocks to buy right now before June 2nd?
Well, if you'd like to learn more, I've just completed a new research report. It's called the Fab 5 next-gen AI stocks that could make you 1,000%. Inside, you'll learn the names of 5 next-gen AI companies using brain-scale computer chip power that could essentially replace the Magnificent Seven and become the leaders of a new order in the markets and the economy. Now, I'd be surprised if you've heard of the names of any of them before.
But that's only for starters. I've also asked Jeff to assemble a full research report on just one company in particular, the AI California firm behind the world's first brain-scale chip, which he predicts will go mainstream on June 2nd. Already, the founder of a computing firm that helped create the internet has taken a massive stake.
And that report is called the AI Superchip: How One Tiny Company Could Reshape Technology. Now, this is probably the most exciting company in the world today. It's one you could be telling your grandkids about in the years to come. Add it to your buy list now, no matter where the broad market goes next, and enjoy the ride. If you're interested, you can receive full access in the next few minutes. I think this report alone represents what will go down as the greatest AI investment opportunity of the decade. Now remember, sell-offs come and go in the market, but the best new technologies always go on to thrive and make early investors with the courage to buy and hold astronomical gains.
Now, keep in mind, we're holding today's event both to bring you this historic AI opportunity and because in recent weeks, our firm has received a lot of questions from readers about AI technology and the markets as a whole. After all, there's no question it's been a confusing environment. For example, earlier this year, NVIDIA set the record for the biggest one-day stock loss in U.S. history. The Magnificent Seven lost $1 trillion in a single day after this year's tariff announcement and more. And yet, beginning June 2nd, as we'll explain in more detail, Jeff and Whitney believe the market's narrative could change and get even trickier. All the most popular companies of the past decade could crash even further, while the next-gen AI leaders could enter the first stage of a record-breaking bull market. And that's why, to give you all the answers and make sure you're fully prepared for both the traps and the massive upside potential, we're taking this opportunity to a valuable new level unlike anything we've ever done in our firm's history.
In short, we're partnering with Jeff to bring you his expertise on what's coming next to AI and other breakthrough technologies. Personally, this is how I've made some of my biggest gains. I get incredible ideas by simply tapping my network of friends, which includes many multi-billion-dollar money managers. That's one reason 5 billionaires have followed my research. Well, today, I want to add Jeff to my network and yours.
For the first time ever at our firm, we're unveiling Jeff's massively successful and best-selling research service, Exponential Tech Investor. And we're making a first-of-its-kind special invitation. So, Jeff, walk us through it here.
Well, I'm obsessed with technology, and I even learned Japanese so I could work in Tokyo and see the best emerging technologies in the 90s. And for me, it's all about finding the next frontier. That's why I got my degree in aeronautical and astronautical engineering at Purdue University, the first step towards becoming an astronaut. I ended up in the deal flow in Silicon Valley as much because I wanted to make money and because I wanted to have a first-hand look at all the best new startups. Here's another look at 18 tech plays that I made. It was a natural leap to launch Exponential Tech Investor so I could share my best ideas, my best predictions, recommendations, and analysis, and give others a chance to make money too.
And that's an understatement, Jeff. You've recommended what? At least 10 stocks that have more than doubled, have attracted up to 816,000 readers from around the globe, and received notes like this from Maura T., who writes, Jeff, I want to express my and my family's deepest gratitude for your work and for your always so accurate guidance. We were up on almost every single recommendation, and for most of them, the gains have been incredible. Thank you, Jeff, for all that you do to help people like me have a chance to better their lives.
Well, each month, I look to recommend a new small or even micro-cap company on the verge of exponential growth in fields as varied as semiconductors, mobility, broadcasting and video, infrastructure, IT networking and security, fintech, consumer electronics, and much more. Now, what do I mean by exponential tech? Well, take a look. Here's a list of stocks that have jumped 25,000% or more over the last 30 years through bull and bear markets and every crisis that you can think of. What do they all have in common? The ability to grow at an exponential rate. And that means the more they spread, the faster their adoption among the mass public.
And today, AI offers the very definition of exponential growth.
Right, and as AI gets more efficient, it also gets cheaper to use. And that means more people can afford to use it, which means demand explodes, which means specialized AI programs can be applied to a much wider range of industries and businesses, and the cycle repeats. These are the only kinds of stocks that I want to buy or recommend. So if you feel like the roller coaster market we've seen this year has scared you onto the sidelines, or if you feel like you haven't saved enough for retirement, then I can tell you that investing at least a small amount in next-gen AI could make all the difference.
And today, you have a model portfolio containing the stocks that you recommend we buy immediately, correct?
That's correct. And that's in addition to the Fab 5 and the better than NVIDIA AI super chip maker, which I urge you to get into by June 2nd. As I'll explain, that's when I predict it'll be unveiled to the mass public. So even if you're skeptical, take at least a small stake in these companies. In Silicon Valley, we call that approach the power law mindset. It's based on the concept that the biggest venture capital returns follow a power law curve where the top 1% of investments might account for 90% of your returns.
Love that, Jeff. So in other words, a small stake in just one mega winner at today's historically optimal prices could add that extra zero to your net worth, as you put it. Now, in just a moment, we'll hold a detailed Q&A session about next-gen AI. Jeff and Whitney's June 2nd prediction, where stocks are really likely to go this year, and more, including Jeff and Whitney's free recommendation of the #1 stock to buy right now before June 2nd, plus the #1 stock to avoid. But first, I want to make something clear. As Jeff mentioned, he's uncovered many of the best new emerging tech firms over the last 30 years as a Silicon Valley investor. And unless you're worth at least $1 million or you've earned at least $200,000 in each of the last 2 years, the government won't let you invest in the kind of private deals where Jeff has made his fortune. And in the world of boutique hedge funds, where Whitney gets many of his top ideas, most funds charge at least 2% of your assets and 20% of your profits to be a client. In other words, it would normally be prohibitively expensive for you to access the kind of ideas that attract Jeff and Whitney. But today, for the first time ever, we're opening the doors to an innovative way for you to receive Jeff's analysis and top recommendations yourself. Each month, he'll recommend a small stock in the world of emerging technology with the potential to make you 10 times your money or more through bull and bear markets, if you're willing to get in early and be patient. For example, Jeff called the 2020 crash 45 days before it happened, and then, when the market was panicking, he recorded this cell phone video during lockdown from his Connecticut home, turning massively bullish 3 days from the bottom, and ended up picking the best performing S&P 500 tech stock of the year. So, as you can imagine, Jeff's research is made for this kind of market, and it isn't cheap. But today, we're inviting you to become a new member of Exponential Tech Investor through a special offer we urge you to take advantage of. 1 full year normally costs $5,000. But today, because we're introducing Jeff Brown to our audience for the first time ever, because it's critical to manage risk in today's tricky market, and because next-gen AI is opening what Jeff calls the greatest investment opportunity of the decade, which he predicts will accelerate beginning June 2nd, he's willing to make you a special launch offer. If you get in right now, today, he'll knock 50% off the price, half off. And that means you can become a new member of Exponential Tech Investor right now for just $2,500. The best offer. And that's not all. You also receive a special bonus valued at $5,500. In short, we're doubling the value of what we want to put in your hands in the next few minutes to get you ready for the biggest potential gains with carefully managed risk in the weeks and months to come. Whitney?
In short, you'll also receive 1 free year of our own groundbreaking technology research, Stansberry Venture Value, through today's offer. As you may know, Stansberry Research is the world's largest independent investment research firm, and this is our most elite venture capital work. We rarely advertise it to the public. Each month, a former Big Four auditor applies a venture capital approach to find the best overlooked microcap stocks in emerging tech and other sectors with the potential to make you 10 times your money. For example, he booked a 249% gain in 7 months on a software play. You could have more than doubled your money on a tech firm he found that's transforming the restaurant industry. 4 times your money on a digital intelligence firm reshaping law enforcement, and more.
We normally charge $5,500 per year for venture value because it represents our best high-tech research. But today, because we're so confident next-gen AI and other high-tech has the potential to double or triple your portfolio beginning this year, and because we want you to have all our best tech resources in one place to play the coming bull market we predict for June 2nd and avoid the losers, we're offering you 2 breakthrough products today for half the price of one. To get started, simply click the button on your screen right now to place your order. I think you'll find it's more than worth it. For example, Brian Beach, the analyst behind Stansberry Venture Value, which you'll receive free of charge through today's offer, developed a system that has helped him find 2 of the biggest winners in our firm's history. When he worked for a hedge fund firm, he bought Apple before it rose 6,785%, Boston Scientific before it rose 397%, Microsoft before it rose 1,759%, and more.
We value this bonus at $5,500, but I specifically arranged for you to receive 1 full year of venture value free of charge through today's offer because I think it's the ultimate companion to Jeff Brown's work. Both are exactly what I would use if I had to start over today and build my $200 million hedge fund firm from scratch. Only you'll receive them both at a tiny fraction of what it would cost to join a hedge fund or a Silicon Valley venture capital firm. It's one of the most high-value offers we've ever made.
And keep in mind, we haven't even covered the best parts of this offer yet. When you join Exponential Tech Investor today, you'll also receive a set of incredibly valuable bonuses that could reshape the way you look at the stock market, the state of modern technology, and help you make even more money with your subscription. So, Jeff, can you talk about that?
Of course. It's actually simple. AI is going to create new companies, reshape existing companies, displace many other companies, and generally impact both the stock market and society in ways that we can't even imagine. And that's why, first of all, I want to give you a free bonus report on the next frontier in AI beyond anything that we've discussed today. And that's something called AGI.
And I've heard of this. AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence, correct?
That's correct. And it's going to offer the same kind of .com-like investment opportunities that we've been talking about today with the rise of next-gen AI beginning June 2nd, but on a scale where an early stake in the right companies could truly lead to generational wealth. And that's because we're talking about changes in technology that will impact our lives over the next 100 years, Tom.
And AGI is a pretty hot topic among those who've heard of it, yet most people don't really even know what it means. So, Whitney, can you walk us through it?
Sure. AGI falls in line with the brain-scale chip development we've been covering today, Tom. In short, AGI refers to a kind of artificial superintelligence that can exceed human intelligence. For example, current AI is designed for specific tasks like pattern recognition. But AGI can theoretically perform any intellectual task a human being can, from developing new scientific theories to composing music, but with emotional and cognitive depth indistinguishable from a real person.
Well, AGI will be able to reason, plan, and adapt to new situations and exhibit creativity and even emotional understanding just like a human. The implication will be huge. For example, an AGI system can actually self-evolve.
So tell us what you mean by evolve.
Well, for example, an AGI system might analyze medical data to diagnose diseases and then pivot to designing sustainable energy solutions. It could even integrate sensory inputs like vision, sound, or touch to interact with the physical world through robotics. And of course, for better or worse, this means that it might automate most human labor on a scale even greater than what we've already seen. So for example, today we've covered how AI can outperform humans at repetitive tasks, right? Just look at banking. Did you know that AI has 95% accuracy at fraud detection? It reduces false fraud alerts by 27% and can solve 30% of fraud alerts on its own, all by scanning 500,000 transactions per second. I mean, no human could ever compete with that.
And AGI takes all this to the next level, I'm assuming.
Sure does. For example, it could unlock breakthroughs in math, geology, medicine, physics, and even reshape education, which I take seriously as one of the founders of Teach for America. Look at this. A beta version of AGI recently surpassed the best minds in science at a PhD level test, and even the top mathematicians. No matter what field you're in, AGI systems could become just as valuable to you as your most trusted colleagues. The threat of AGI taking over the workplace is so real that some experts have even theorized we may need to launch a universal basic income plan to cover the unemployed.
It's a very real possibility. As the tech supergiants incorporate AGI into their businesses and use it to become more efficient and reduce their labor costs, they'll be able to lower prices and achieve even more scale. This will allow them to do more with less and reduce operational expenses. And this, in turn, will cut into the amount of good traditional jobs and drive tech profits even higher.
Okay, so well, today you're already recommending a next-gen AI super chip maker 50 times faster than NVIDIA, along with the Fab 5 stocks that will surface along the resulting new order in the market, which you predict will accelerate on June 2nd. So what else can I buy today to invest in AGI right now?
Well, before we get to that, I do need to make one key point very clear. AGI isn't some event that is 5 or 10 years down the road. It is imminent, Tom. I predict at least one company will achieve AGI within the next 12 months. And it's actually a matter of national security. If China has an AGI breakthrough before the United States, we'll be in a lot of trouble. And that's one reason why back in January, the president put a 180-day action plan in place to achieve AI dominance in the U.S. under Executive Order 14110.
Got it. And which company could be the first to achieve AGI?
Well, take a look. I recently visited their headquarters. One single company most people have never heard of before is actively building the holy grail of AI. The moment when machines aren't just powerful tools, but machines that can actually think, reason, and solve complex problems like a team of the world's smartest humans. It will be the single most transformative event in human history, bigger than electricity, bigger than the Industrial Revolution, bigger than the internet, and it could mint more millionaires and billionaires than any other technological breakthrough in history.
Wow. AGI will reshape every industry on the planet. For example, military defense could adopt AI-powered weapons that make today's arsenals look like relics. Healthcare could adopt AI that can decode genetic disorders, find cures for diseases, and extend human life. Energy, manufacturing, and more will all be affected.
The country that develops AGI first will control the future. They will become the dominant superpower of the 21st century militarily and economically for decades. And this will trigger the biggest economic boom since the Roaring '20s. But here's the thing. The American company behind this AGI company is private.
Okay, so you mean I have to be a Silicon Valley investor in order to buy it?
Well, normally, yes. But fortunately, I found a backdoor way to invest in this company through the ordinary stock market. And I've written up the full details in a new research report. It's called The World's First AGI Company. They've developed what's being called the smartest AI on Earth, and you'll receive my report free of charge if you get into today's special offer before it expires. And as you'll see, the sooner you get into this stock, the better, because this company's valuation could soon jump by another $10 billion.
All right, so gentlemen, here's an uncomfortable question. What happens if we see a massive AI crash, a sell-off even worse than the historic market drop we've already seen this year? Couldn't all the companies you're recommending today be a sell?
Not at all. And to demonstrate why, I want to take you back once again to the dot-com era and show you how a multi-millionaire hedge fund manager thinks about a sell-off when it comes to disruptive new technology. Take a look. Here are all the companies I recommended during the dot-com bear market from 2000 to 2002, when the NASDAQ plummeted 78%. Now, here's what the return on the exact same stocks would have been if I'd waited another 2 years to recommend them in 2004, when the market had officially recovered and there was seemingly no longer any threat of an imminent crash.
Wow, that's a profound difference. You'd have made twice as much money by buying during the crash.
Tom, you may know that my lifetime mentor is Warren Buffett. I've been to every Berkshire Hathaway meeting for the past 26 years. Had the pleasure of meeting and even corresponding with Buffett. And in fact, I bake him Christmas cookies every year.
I'm well aware. In fact, when Charlie Munger, Buffett's right-hand man, passed away recently, you were invited onto CNBC Fast Money within hours to talk about it.
I helped write an entire book about Munger and his investment philosophy. And one thing I learned, as Buffett famously put it, is to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. That's how I knew to pound the table on those stocks during the dot-com bear market, even after calling the crash a month before it happened. I knew it meant the best stocks would simply go on sale. It's how I outperformed the S&P 500 during the bear market from 2000 to 2003. How I outperformed the bear market from 2007 to 2010. How I called the bottom of the stock market in December 2008 on 60 Minutes, just before the longest bull market in history. And how I knew exactly what to do in 2020.
Yeah, this is incredible. If you're not aware, back when America was shutting down during the COVID-19 outbreak and stocks were experiencing a series of their worst one-day drops in history, and experts were proclaiming the end of the U.S. economy, on March 23rd, 2020, Whitney announced, "I'm trembling with greed. This is the best time to be an investor in more than a decade." And as it turned out, that was the very day stocks bottomed. And he recommended a basket of stocks during an emergency summit, much like today's event, and 7 of them went on to double.
In other words, open a position in these AI stocks now. And if we see a deeper sell-off, do what I did back on March 23rd, 2020. Do what every great investor does and buy the dips. Jeff will show you exactly when to add to your positions and how to manage your portfolio of next-gen AI stocks. Because remember, high-tech innovation has always moved the best companies ahead throughout every crash, bear market, and crisis in history. Now, if you're on the older side and can't afford to be patient, then maybe this investment opportunity isn't right for you. And frankly, these stocks tend to be highly volatile, so they should only be a modest portion of your total portfolio. But for anyone with an ample time horizon, these are the stocks you want to buy and hold essentially forever, as my mentor Buffett would put it.
Yes, every good investor should know that when it comes to sweeping changes in technology. You want to hold on for the long run. Don't get scared out by a sell-off that could turn around faster than you think. The simple fact is being able to white-knuckle these stocks could make the difference between who will make perhaps a 40% gain and who could walk away with the kind of profit that could restructure your life.
As just one example, earlier we covered Jeff's recommendation of Tesla, which went on to rise as high as 2,100%. But guess when he told readers to buy? 2018, the worst year for stocks in a decade.
Wow. Actually, Tom, can I show you something? I want to demonstrate just how important it is to hold on for dear life when you find an exponential growth stock. So let me give you a pop quiz.
Okay, a pop quiz? Okay, go easy on me, Jeff.
All right, well, here's a stock chart for a company in 2018, and as Whitney mentioned, that year saw a major sell-off, partly driven by our tariff policy. So tell me, would you buy this stock?
Honestly, it looks terrible. What is that, a 31% drop? I think I'd rather buy something with some better positive momentum.
All right, I get it, but let me show you another chart. Here's a chart of a company from 2022, the worst sell-off in half a century. Now, how about this one? Would you buy this stock?
It looks like another loser. It's down, what, 60%?
Okay, and finally, here's one from last summer. Now, I'm guessing this stock isn't exactly your cup of tea either.
Well, I mean, I'm probably failing this quiz, but it fell, what, 27%? Ouch. I don't know, Jeff. I'd say I'd be pretty nervous to buy the dip.
It's fair enough. The point is, most people would pass on all 3 stock charts that I just showed you. Well, guess what, Tom? Each of these charts is a snapshot of the exact same company at different moments in time. Now, put them all together with the full time horizon, and what do you get?
NVIDIA.
Correct. Each of those sell-offs you just saw here were actually the optimal moments to buy the stock. Now, from the low in 2018, it's up as much as 4,573%. From the low in 2022, it's up as much as 1,204%. And from the low last summer, it's up as much as 39%. And Tom, let's not forget something. Do you realize that since 2020, cumulative inflation has been nearly 20%, meaning that if you had $10,000 sitting in cash, it's lost almost $2,000 in value. Inflation is destroying your wealth, and you cannot afford to be out of high-quality stocks.
Excellent point, Jeff. As the value of your cash erodes, the stock market is still one of the best places to preserve and grow your wealth. And it's been so for more than a century. Sell-offs, crashes, and all. Here's a chart I love to show. It's the performance of the broad market through the Great Depression, the Cold War, the JFK assassination, the high inflation 70s, Black Monday, September 11th, the War on Terror, the dot-com crash, the 2008 crash, the 2020 crash, and the 2022 sell-off. Over the long run, the market always goes up.
And the most winning tech stocks lead the way. And by the way, we recently saw a signal that's flashed just 3 times over the past 2 decades, pointing to massive gains ahead in the broad market.
The simple fact is, if your wealth isn't growing with the economy and the underlying new technologies that drive our economic growth, then on a real basis, you're losing money. And one more point I'd like to make, if I may. Jeff is comparing the Fab 5 next-gen AI stocks we're recommending today with NVIDIA to show why a sell-off can actually be good news when you're investing in disruptive new technology. But keep in mind, unlike NVIDIA, Jeff only recommends smaller microcap stocks in Exponential Tech Investor.
Right, and he is incredibly good at this. For example, during the 2018 bear market, he picked the top 2 small caps on the Russell 1000. Now think about that. Of almost all the small cap stocks in the U.S. market, he picked the top 2 during an absolutely brutal year for stocks. The odds of doing that are less than 1 in 500 million. So Jeff, why do you love small cap stocks so much?
Well, consider this chart. It shows a NASDAQ 100 tech fund versus the Dow Industrials from mid-2006 through 2021. This NASDAQ fund contains many of the kind of exponential businesses that I recommend, while the Dow has a greater weighting in traditional old world industry. Now, as you can see, the NASDAQ fund saw a 926% return over that time span, which includes the 2008 financial crisis and the 2020 crash. Meanwhile, the Dow returned just 225%. Over the long run, technology always leads the way to higher gains. And the best tech microcaps often become tomorrow's blue chips. Just look at how every stock in the Mag 7 started.
That's a great point. Wasn't it Warren Buffett who once said he could make 50% every single year if he could buy microcaps?
Yeah, he sure did. And it's not hard to see why. A study found that small cap firms have less than 1/4 as many analysts covering them compared to larger companies. That means a lot of great small cap opportunities fall through the cracks, simply because there's no one on Wall Street to notice them.
And that brings us to another bonus you've received through today's special offer. The best small cap and yet another new frontier in AI, quantum computing. So Jeff, a lot of folks have never heard about this topic and what it means for the breakthrough companies who master it. So can you walk us through it?
Well, quantum computers are the next frontier, and they go hand in hand with artificial intelligence. In short, quantum computers can do things that ordinary or classical computers could never hope to achieve. And that's because they're powered by subatomic particles stored at freezing temperatures that can exist in multiple binary states at once, allowing for greater computational power per second. For example, Google recently unveiled their latest quantum computer called Willow. It did a calculation in 5 minutes that would have taken a supercomputer over 10 billion years. Now, that's an actual statistic released by Google.
And Google saw a nice 70% pop from that news, as I recall.
Sure did, but as always, I prefer to look at small cap stocks, like one company, which I first wrote about back on August 17, 2020. I said Rigetti Computing is one of my favorite early-stage quantum computing companies. Rigetti is one of the top players developing a superconducting quantum computer. This technology has the potential to become a universal quantum computer capable of solving any problem. Sure enough, the stock rose 2,400% in just 4 months.
So do AGI and other developments in artificial intelligence depend on quantum computers?
Well, let's put it this way. Quantum computing will take AI to a totally new level. Now, I'm talking about things like weather predictions on a global basis, molecular analysis, protein folding, genetic analysis, even nuclear fusion, cosmology. Quantum will tackle all of it. Simply put, quantum is a game changer. I mean, just think about how much our world changed with the adoption of classical computers in the mid-20th century, or with the personal computer revolution in the 1980s and 90s. These technologies transformed our society in ways few could have predicted and gave rise to the Magnificent Seven, which have gone up hundreds of percent through bull and bear markets and created millionaires among early investors who had the courage to buy and hold. Now, quantum computing will do precisely the same thing, but the impact will be far more powerful. And it won't take decades. We'll see profound changes in our society from the rise of quantum computing in just the next few years, Tom, which means you want to get your money in now.
By the way, if you're wondering just how powerful quantum computing can be and the effect it could have on the financial markets, one recent university study showed that a quantum computer could hack Bitcoin within the decade. And that's because its computational strength can reduce a task that would normally take millions of years to a matter of just hours instead.
Now, on the flip side, that means the rise of quantum could make cryptos even more secure by using quantum to protect the blockchain code. Just think of how valuable that could be for the crypto space, especially for a small company who creates the quantum breakthrough that could take every single cryptocurrency to the next level. Now, that's the kind of stock that you want to buy now. And I say that as someone who bought Bitcoin before it rose 33,000% and recently made 74 times my money on the crypto platform Coinbase.
Didn't Microsoft just come out with something?
Well, Microsoft and Amazon both recently released their own versions of a prototype quantum computer. But honestly, I wasn't impressed. And I said to my readers at the time, from a commercial standpoint, I think they're both worthless. What Microsoft created is more of an academic exercise. Now, my bet is that a smaller and lesser known player could tackle quantum. Exactly what I look to recommend in Exponential Tech Investor.
It's a fascinating topic we could cover for at least the next hour. And that's why, through today's special offer, Jeff has agreed to give you free and immediate access to yet another bonus report. The next frontier in AI, a breakthrough firm that could dominate quantum computing. Inside, you'll learn the name of a stock Jeff recommends you buy immediately to stay on top of this massive and developing new super trend. And best of all, you'll receive this new report naming the #1 stock to buy immediately as a free bonus through today's special offer if you get in right now before it expires. And Jeff, that leads us to another question. What if a new subscriber to your Exponential Tech Investor is unhappy? Do you offer any kind of a refund?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Like Stansberry Research, Chaikin Analytics, and many other independent investment research firms, we don't offer cash refunds because it would compromise our business model. Unfortunately, too many people would sign up, grab my model portfolio and all of my research, my reports, all my best stock picks, and then cancel, which isn't fair to my paid subscribers.
But you want your subscribers to be happy, right? Sorry to interrupt you.
Of course, Tom. The biggest reason I'm doing all this is because I want to take care of my subscribers. I want to give them access to the knowledge and network that I've spent more than 3 decades building and show them how to make sense of it and profit from the most significant technological revolution of our lifetimes. It is very rewarding work that gives me the opportunity to travel the world, conducting research to find great ideas that I get to write about. So if you're unhappy with my work, we're giving you 2 options. First, take the next 30 days to have a look at my Exponential Tech Investor. Download all of my reports, write down all my stock picks. If you're unhappy for any reason, it's no problem. Simply contact our customer service team and you can get a full credit refund, which you can apply towards anything else that I publish. And keep in mind, I have 4 other products, one that targets the highest quality, highest growth digital assets, one that uses AI technology, a deep neural network to find cryptocurrencies on the verge of a big move, a trading product that uses the volatility in the market to find very profitable short-term trades, and a large-cap tech letter that recommends the very best growth stocks benefiting from major growth trends. You can choose from any of those, or you have a second option. In short, I arranged a special deal with Stansberry Research, which I'm told Stansberry has only done a handful of times before in the 26-year history of their firm. In fact, publisher Brett Ackman prepared a special video explaining the refund policy in full. Can we roll that clip, please?
Hi, I'm Brett Ackman, publisher of Stansberry Research. It's been a confusing year for stocks. March saw the fastest market decline since the COVID crash. $9 trillion was wiped off the market. And yet AI has already led to colossal gains in recent years, and the underlying technology is only getting better. We're confident this disconnect is opening one of the greatest investment opportunities of the decade. And we believe Jeff Brown is the top AI expert in our industry. In fact, we have such confidence that Jeff's tech product could lead the way to colossal gains for our subscribers that we're offering you a very special refund policy today. Take the next 30 days to have a look at his exponential tech investor. If you're not completely happy, you can receive a full refund in the form of Stansberry credit. That means you can apply the money you spend today to any of Stansberry's 24 different products, no matter what the price. And keep in mind, our products cover everything from cryptocurrencies to options trading, gold and silver, bonds, value investing, blue chips, venture capital style technology, and more. So if you enjoy Stansberry's work, you're fully protected. Now keep in mind, we don't normally offer Stansberry credit for a product like this because Jeff's firm, Brownstone, is independent of Stansberry Research. But we're making you this offer as a good faith demonstration of exactly how much we believe in Jeff's work and how strongly we believe every Stansberry subscriber would benefit from his discoveries in the rapidly growing sectors of next generation AI, especially in today's uncertain stock market.
Wow, that's a powerful guarantee, Jeff.
Well, yes, and again, I'm extremely grateful and proud that Stansberry Research is willing to put their own name, credit, and 26-year reputation behind the work that I'm doing.
Although, frankly, I doubt you'll ask for a refund. Jeff seems to have a natural touch for finding the best breakthrough technologies. For example, Jeff has made 700% on Clubhouse software, 5,344% on Bestow, a tech-forward insurance aggregator, 942% on Apprente, which uses AI for taking orders at fast food restaurants, and more. In fact, the intersection of technology and digital money is one of his personal favorites. He's seen a 1,471% gain on Tyrion, 1,306% on crypto browser company Brave, 2,933% on Chia Network, a blockchain designed to securely tokenize any asset, and many more. It's one reason that Jeff's firm, Brownstone Research, has been an active member of the Digital Chamber since 2017. Okay, now Jeff and Whitney, one thing that really disturbs me is how your prediction of next-gen AI could cause many white-collar jobs to implode, which could mean the end of some of the world's best-known companies and even whole industries. So tell us, what exactly does that mean for investors?
Well, that's a great question, and the answer is AI will have the greatest impact on sectors where it improves our quality of life. For example, doctors take an average of 4 hours to review x-rays for cancers, and AI can do it in 90 seconds with the same accuracy, if not better. In fact, I know of a company that analyzes chest radiographs by comparing each scan against thousands of healthy scans to spot infections. And it does this automatically because all those healthy scans are stored in an AI database. And guess what? This technology is 160 times faster than a human doctor. Now, how much do you think it's worth to society and to our healthcare system to have a company that can take over radiology?
That's a good point, but I don't see how AI can ever replace doctors, though.
Well, it won't, not entirely, but it'll mean the end of certain highly paid doctors, like radiologists. When those doctors miss a CAT scan tumor, people die. AI improves their success rate by 580%. Now, if I'm running a hospital, why should I hire a young new radiologist and pay that person a six-figure salary when I can license AI to do the same job with a greater success rate? I get higher patient survival, a decrease in lawsuits, and I can spend less on HR and more. And as for the company who makes all that possible, that could translate to the kind of astronomical upside that we associate with buying a stock like Apple 20 years ago.
Now, Tom, if you're still skeptical, keep in mind the rise of AI in medicine or any other field is part of a natural progression we've seen over hundreds of years. For example, I want to tell you a quick story. In 1847, there was a doctor who developed a radical breakthrough. He found a way to reduce the number of women who died during childbirth by 1,700%. Sounds pretty good, right? But when he asked other doctors to try his breakthrough, they laughed at him. He ended up losing his job. His breakthrough? He wanted doctors to wash their hands before touching patients. So look, Doctors will still exist in an AI world. They'll simply have to adopt AI as crucially as the act of scrubbing their hands.
And they have no choice. For example, an NIH study has shown that AI improves breast cancer detection by 9.4% compared to humans. Another NIH study has shown that AI can predict heart attacks 50 minutes before they occur in 91% of patients, compared to just 6% for human doctors.
Wow. Does this mean a pay cut is coming to certain doctors? Yes, almost certainly. But for investors, it means every serious X-ray company needs to either immediately adopt AI or face extinction. That's why GE Healthcare, Canon, Hologic, and more have gone all in on AI. In fact, just look at this spike in AI devices approved by the FDA since 2015.
Now, why does that matter? Because it reminds us of the last time we saw tech invade medicine more than 20 years ago with the rise of surgical robotics. Like Intuitive Surgical, up 23,764%, or Stryker, up 90,000%. Globus Medical, up 426%, and more. So for investors, this is all good news more than bad news, so long as you're avoiding the equivalent of Sears, as we touched on earlier, the dinosaurs who are too bloated to adapt.
In fact, we'll name one popular company in just a moment we recommend you sell or avoid immediately, which you might own in your portfolio.
And to that point, I want to talk about the next bonus you'll receive if you take advantage of our special offer today. Many folks have asked, if AI is such a big deal, then why aren't some of the oldest companies in America using it to reinvent themselves? Won't a lot of them benefit? And of course, Whitney, that's a fair question, especially for you. I know you've built your career by booking phenomenal gains on companies that are often well-known or completely ordinary. Like the time you made 5 times your money on CKE Restaurants, the owners of Carl's Jr. and Hardee's. Tripled your money in a year on JetBlue. Made 5 times your money on SodaStream. Put 10% of your entire hedge fund into McDonald's the day after the stock bottomed in 2003 before it went on to rise 15-fold, and the examples go on and on. So let me ask you this. Aside from AI creating new companies, aren't you excited about any existing big names who will get a second win with AI?
Of course. And there are lots of examples, like John Deere.
The tractor company? You're kidding me.
Yeah, they're using AI to boost farmers' profitability. Take their AI-powered lettuce bot, for example. It uses machine learning software to distinguish between lettuce plants and bad weeds. It takes under a second to do this, according to one recent study, and reduces herbicide use by 90%. So farmers can now grow more and better crops with fewer pesticides and spend less time and energy in the process. Oh, and something else. John Deere also offers a cloud-based platform that allows all the machines on a farm to interact with each other. This lets the farmer monitor activity in real time, analyze performance, maximize crop productivity, and more.
Well, heck, even Starbucks is using artificial intelligence. In their case, they use AI to optimize the inflow of orders and tell baristas when to brew each drink based on customers' arrival times. This way, each drink gets delivered at the perfect temperature.
So is Starbucks a buy?
No, but the bottom line is adoption of AI is a do or die for almost any company that wants to survive in the 21st century.
Our free recommendation is still to come, but for now, I'll name 2 companies using AI to improve their businesses, both of which I'm bullish on today, Meta and Google. Both could see a massive boost in profits from their adoption of AI.
And thank you for that, Whitney. And remember, you'll receive Jeff's full model portfolio of stocks to buy right now, along with the special new reports naming the Fab 5 next-gen AI stocks we discussed and the AI super chip maker, along with everything else we've covered today, when you take advantage of this first-of-its-kind offer right now before it expires. Remember, that includes 1 free year of Stansberry Venture Value, which is normally $5,500.
And Jeff, if I'm not mistaken, that leads to yet another opportunity, something I've personally been following for months now, because it reminds me of the dot-com boom, and that is data infrastructure. How are all these burgeoning AI technologies going to grab enough bandwidth to exist? Where do they store all that data?
Well, this is one of the easiest opportunities that I see to position yourself. No matter which companies win at the AI revolution, we know there'll be a historic demand for data centers. That is, facilities that can provide and process the enormous computing power needed for AI. Their growth has been staggering. By 2023, large-scale cloud computing firms operated 992 data centers globally, with capacity doubling over 4 years.
Yeah, in fact, I saw a McKinsey study that says demand is projected to rise every single year through 2030, with AI driving 70% of the demand.
Well, these facilities can support absolutely insane amounts of data. Global storage capacity hit 10.1 zettabytes in 2023 alone.
Okay, I've heard of gigabyte. How big is a zettabyte?
Well, it's a 1 followed by 21 zeros, Tom.
Okay. Well.
To give you a sense of scale, if every byte were a grain of sand, then you'd have to count every grain of sand on every beach in the world and then multiply that number by over 1,000 to equal 10 zettabytes.
Wow, I can't even wrap my head around that, Jeff. It's tough.
It's a massive market,
Right.
forecast to top $1 trillion annually by 2029. And by the way, how big is $1 trillion? Think of it this way. If you spent $1 every second, it would take you 31,700 years to spend $1 trillion.
Yeah, it's an unimaginably big market. AI data centers are predicted to consume something like up to 8% of U.S. electricity by 2030. As with any breakthrough, that translates to a serious money-making opportunity among the leading data centers.
Buying the best of these data centers today is like buying parcels of land for pennies in the 18th century before the railroads came through, Tom. It is a classic infrastructure play for the 21st century. For example, consider Vertiv Holdings, which provides critical technology like cooling and power systems for AI data centers. It's up 8-fold in recent years.
And that's why, through today's first-of-its-kind special offer, you'll receive yet another bonus report. It's called How to Profit from the AI Data Center Boom. Inside, you'll learn the name of Jeff's #1 stock to buy today to take advantage of this mega trend behind the scenes of the next-gen AI boom. And gentlemen, with that, let's talk about your big prediction. Now, we've covered the rise of a new AI superchip 50 times faster than NVIDIA's, and how beginning June 2nd, it could take AI to the next level, causing old world sectors to collapse on the market while creating a new order and a fabulous 5 that could replace the magnificent 7. So walk us through the details, Jeff. And what exactly do you see coming June 2nd?
On or around Monday, June 2nd, I predict the company behind the world's first brain-scale AI computer chip will go public on the stock market. And if you missed buying NVIDIA at its IPO in 1999, please pay close attention. Like all the best startups where I've tripled, quadrupled, and in one case made 44 times my money, this company began in the private space. And at the moment, it's still private, but we have evidence from an S1 filing with the SEC that this little California super chip maker is actively planning to go public. And I predict it could happen days from now. The clock is ticking. Even if I'm off by just a few days or even weeks, I can tell you with absolute confidence, this company should hit the stock market this year and cause a frenzy, bull or bear market. It's already taken all the steps needed to go public, and when it does, I urge you to buy it the very day it IPOs. That means you should read my special report about the company right now, today, and be ready with some cash to snap up shares.
Will this mean the end of NVIDIA, do you think?
No, that's an important distinction that I want to make, and why I've been calling today's opportunity next-gen AI. In short, NVIDIA's chips are incredibly good at training AI models. In other words, they're good for what's called foundational work. But the next generation of AI chips, led by the small company that I predict will go public on June 2nd, are far superior when it comes to what's called inference work. By that, I mean the ability for AI programs to go beyond their training and begin to tackle new topics and achieve human-like abilities to create and innovate.
And remember, just like the dot-coms, this is where the real money comes into play. For example, Google wasn't the first search engine. Far from it. First came Yahoo, Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, and others. But Google soon became the best search engine through better technology and went public during a very difficult time in the markets, not long after the dot-com collapse when many investors wanted nothing to do with high tech. But recognizing Google as a long-term winner helped make all the difference between who became a millionaire in that area and who was left holding the scraps.
It's exactly right. This new AI superchip will spawn a new economy among the companies who use it to reinvent our lives all over again. The companies using inference to take AI into brand new commercial ventures. For example, AI e-commerce platforms, AI drug makers and gold miners and social media apps and much more. And for that, they won't use NVIDIA. They'll want to use this new AI superchip with 50 times more efficient performance, greater memory, and less need for storage space. It's built for doing AI inference work, and that's why I think its mass unveiling on or around June 2nd will accelerate next-gen AI faster than you can believe, bull or bear market.
And that brings us back to a good point we covered earlier, and that is what to avoid, because not every company who adopts next-gen AI will be a winner. Just like the dot-com mania, there were plenty of pets.coms.
Well, I've avoided a lot of those traps myself. For example, back in 2023, I had the opportunity to invest in something called the Humane AI pin.
I remember that. People said it was revolutionary, a next-gen device with the cachet of an Apple product, but with artificial intelligence. Time magazine called the AI pin one of the best inventions of 2023.
Yes, it was supposed to be a clip-on device that would attach to your clothes. It would have a camera and a projector designed to project graphics onto a surface like the table or your hand. The company was co-founded by a former Apple engineer known for his work on the iPhone and raised almost $250 million from some of the best investors in the world.
And let me guess, you said no.
I didn't invest a dime. I mean, to me, it looked like garbage. The reality is that Humane's AI pin added friction for its users. You had to attach and detach it from your clothing every day. Anytime you see a breakthrough that adds friction to your life, it tends to be doomed. And it was awkward to use, which for consumer electronics is a nail in the coffin.
Sure enough, the device was slammed by critics upon its release, and the company ended up selling to HP for a fraction of its former value. And that's why, as part of today's special offer, we insisted that Jeff put together a special report to warn you of all the biggest landmines in next-gen AI. That is, all the hot new companies who will take the AI superchip and try and create some new device or platform that might appear sexy at first glance, when really they're just putting lipstick on a pig.
Jeff's new report is called Top 5 AI Stocks to Avoid Right Now. You'll get it free of charge by acting today before the offer expires.
Well, in fact, I want to go one step further. As you know, all investments carry risk, and some of my recommendations are speculative. So again, please don't invest more than you're willing to lose, because there are no guarantees in the market. And that's why I want to give you free access to my guide for risk management. As I said before, it's a huge mistake to get scared out of this megatrend by the shakeups we've seen in the market this year. This is a long-term story that won't be shut down by tariffs. Throughout American history, technology has always moved ahead no matter what the broad market is doing. So I designed this report to help you with asset allocation, position sizing, volatility-adjusted stop losses, and more to see the greatest potential gains with my recommendations with carefully managed risk.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Jeff. And with that, we're getting ready to wrap up here. Today, we covered how next-gen AI technology could soon reshape the markets and the economy no matter where stocks go next, all driven by a new AI superchip 50 times faster than NVIDIA's, which SEC filings indicate should go public as early as days from now. The simple fact is, even with all the shakeups we've seen this year, AI is still the greatest investment opportunity of the decade. For example, the president recently unveiled his historic Stargate initiative, which plans to put $500 billion into AI computing power. Barron's has said that AI could upend the world even more than the internet. It'll bring change that is orders of magnitude greater than anything the world has seen yet. Ray Kurzweil, one of the world's most respected futurists and Google's director of engineering, the man who predicted the rise of the internet in 1990, has said AI will unleash a technological change so rapid and profound it represents a rupture in the fabric of human history. And of course, AI is already attracting users faster than YouTube, Facebook, and the iPhone, all of which were breakthroughs that sent the stocks behind them up hundreds of percents through bull markets and even through devastating bear markets. For example, people forget that Apple sold 13 million iPhones during the 2008 crisis, even greater than what Steve Jobs had predicted. That's why we urge you to take advantage of today's offer before it expires and take advantage of this historic moment in the markets when you can buy these stocks early on at optimal prices. We spent months arranging a special deal to offer you access to Jeff Brown's research, which has long been a pioneer in our industry for bringing the best AI opportunities to the public. Just keep in mind, though, the full suite of bonuses attached to this launch offer will never be available again once this offer expires. So we urge you to order now and receive 50% off Exponential Tech Investor, where Jeff looks to make a new recommendation every single month. Plus, 1 free year of Stansberry Venture Value. That's worth more than the entire value of this offer. Plus, your free copy of the Fab 5 next-gen AI stocks that could make you 1,000%. And of course, you'll also receive the AI Super Chip, how one tiny company could reshape technology. Plus, the world's first AGI company. Plus, you'll receive the next frontier in AI, a breakthrough firm that could dominate quantum computing. Plus, how to profit from the AI data center boom. Plus, top 5 AI stocks to avoid right now, and Jeff's guide to risk management. Frankly, this offer is the ultimate AI package. Everything you could ever want to know about this breakthrough new sector and the best ways to play it, all in one place. We value this entire special offer at more than $12,000. And that's not all. You also receive a surprise bonus we didn't have time to cover today, which I think you're going to love. Be sure to click the button on your screen to see exactly what that is and order now before today's offer expires. I think your subscription could pay for itself pretty quickly, especially starting June 2nd. Remember, Jeff has recommended at least 10 different stocks that have more than doubled through bull and bear markets, including NVIDIA, shortly after the 2015 bear market before it rose 18,300%. He's personally gotten into 18 tech deals that have each returned at least 1,000%. And his work has been followed by 8 professionals from the world's largest asset management firm, plus another 22 from JP Morgan. If you're going to follow anyone in this space, we urge you to look at Jeff's work backed by our 100% satisfaction guarantee. Well, gentlemen, we've still got your 2 free recommendations to cover, and I know you're eager to get to that. The #1 stock to buy and the #1 stock to avoid right now. But first, any last thoughts here?
I launched my first hedge fund from my bedroom with only $1 million from friends and family. And frankly, the odds are that I should have failed. But I didn't. I ended up becoming one of the world's best-known investors. And that's because I was lucky enough to understand the magic of exponential growth during the dot-com era. Most people didn't know how to predict which would be the winners, didn't understand the technology, or were too frightened by the threat of a crash to take meaningful long-term positions in the best stocks. Well, today, next-gen AI is the next frontier in exponential growth stocks. And what's coming beginning June 2nd will be one of the biggest developments we've seen to date. You don't need to start a hedge fund, as I did. But if you have any money to put to work right now, trust me, you don't want to miss this.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I found NVIDIA back in early 2016, long before it became so popular that people organized watch parties around each new earnings release. But if you missed my NVIDIA recommendation and feel like it's too late to get into the AI story, that'd be like ignoring the dot-com boom because you didn't buy Yahoo in 1997. I promise you, all the biggest potential opportunities are still to come. And I predict they'll accelerate beginning June 2nd with the official release of the world's first brain-scale AI computer chip. Start by taking at least a small part of your portfolio and get into the Fab 5 next-gen AI stocks that I've described today. You'll have more to lose by not at least gaining some exposure to this megatrend story, which will only be getting more and more attention in the months to come.
Excellent. And with that, gentlemen, we've got thousands of folks watching with pen and pad in hand, ready to take down those freebies. So tell us what's your #1 stock to buy right now.
All right. Well, this may come as a surprise, but actually Amazon is my recommendation of companies to buy. Amazon has dropped by about 24% in this latest market volatility, and it's only trading at a valuation of about 2.6 times its annual sales. This is a company that is gushing free cash flow, extremely profitable, and from my perspective is very undervalued. But what most people don't know is Amazon's cloud services division, Amazon Web Services, is literally one of the largest artificial intelligence companies in the world. It is the largest cloud service provider that provides AI technology to the entire industry, and it's recently started developing its own artificial intelligence models that have just been released into the market. On top of that, it designs its own semiconductors and outsources the manufacturing to other companies. These are AI-specific semiconductors. Now, keep in mind, the stocks I recommend are normally much, much smaller than Amazon. And as I said before, I think the majority of the Magnificent Seven will soon be essentially replaced by the Fabulous Five Super AI stocks we're recommending. But if you're looking to buy an established name in the artificial intelligence space right now, go ahead and pick up shares of Amazon. And I would actually position Amazon today as an artificial intelligence company in disguise. Whitney?
And well, I would say Amazon's also a value stock. Stock's trading in the mid-20s of this year's earnings estimates. And in fact, it's been one of the big three tech stocks, along with Alphabet and Meta Platforms, that I've consistently recommended as buy and hold forever stocks starting 6 years ago.
Absolutely. That's great. I agree with Meta and Alphabet as well. Fantastic buys at this stage.
All right, so we got Amazon. So now what's the number one stock to avoid?
All right, well, this is actually linked to my recommendation of Amazon. This is a very popular, hyped up AI stock. It's called SoundHound AI. It actually changed its name to put AI on the end. It's more of a legacy technology company that has an older AI architecture for doing speech recognition, and its applications are things like using an AI for customer service or for taking orders at fast food restaurants or in the automotive industry. It's had some good success with existing enterprise customers, but it only has about $70 million in research and development every year. That's just not enough to develop bleeding edge artificial intelligence technology. The company is still trading at an EV to sales multiple of 22, so that's 22 times its annual sales. It's grossly unprofitable. It's burning through about $60 million in cash this year. It's still going to burn through cash. It'll be unprofitable next year as well. And the market has not yet accounted to one major disruption in the industry, and that disruptor is actually Amazon. So just last week, Amazon released something called Nova Sonic. It's a new speech-to-speech reasoning agentic artificial intelligence model. And Amazon, at Amazon Web Services, is making that technology available to all developers and all enterprise customers in the world. And Amazon, as I said before, AWS is the most successful cloud service providers in artificial intelligence in the world, and they've made it easy to adopt this frontier speech-to-speech artificial intelligence reasoning model that will effectively supplant and exceed all the capabilities of what SoundHound AI is capable of doing. Whitney, any thoughts about that one?
Yeah, actually, this is one I'm familiar with. I've a couple things to mention. Stock's been cut in half this year, but it still has a big $3+ billion market cap, which I think caps its upside and gives you a lot of downside. But some of my best short ideas come from reading reports by activist short sellers, and this one has been written up by a number of the smartest guys I know in the space who have echoed many of the things that you've pointed out. And also, I just want to highlight again, I saw this back in the .com days. Generic companies, to try and catch the hype and just boost their stocks,
yes,
promote their stocks, would add .com to their name, and as you pointed out, SoundHound adds SoundHound AI, as you know, that's always a big warning flag.
And by the way, one more stock I'd like to recommend. Buy Astera Labs. If you missed my analysis of this stock in the lead up to our event, then here's a quick recap. I call this stock NVIDIA's silent partner. It's a semiconductor company that has rapidly emerged as a linchpin in the high-speed connectivity landscape for AI and cloud computing infrastructure. Its products are found in over 80% of AI servers currently deployed, making the company a silent but essential partner for giants like NVIDIA, AMD, and the world's largest cloud providers. Buy the stock now if you haven't already.
And gentlemen, I got to say, I've learned more than I ever thought possible about the next generation of AI technology and the consequences it'll have across society and the stock market. This has really been educational, and it's got me as excited about the stock market as I've been in a very long time. So I want to sincerely thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it. And with that, place your order right now, today, for the best possible deal before this launch offer goes offline forever. On behalf of Stansberry Research and Brownstone, I'm Tom Mustin. I hope you enjoyed today's event, and thank you for joining us.